The day he walked away from me, I thought the world was ending. But now, looking back, I realize sometimes God takes people out of your life because they were blocking the blessings meant for you. That sentence, it has lived in my bones ever since. But back then, I wasn't wise. I wasn't strong. I was just a woman sitting on the cold edge of a queen-sized bed, staring at the packed suitcase my husband dragged toward the door while our unborn child kicked inside me like he was trying to ask, "Mama, why is Daddy leaving?" My name is Olivia. And this is the story of how the man I loved walked away when I needed him the most, and how karma walked him right back to the very door he slammed on me. Before everything fell apart, life was quiet, predictable, almost too perfect. I worked as a preschool teacher, part-time. My mornings smelled like baby lotion, crayons, and spilled milk. The walls were covered with tiny handprints and crooked alphabet letters. Kids hugged me without hesitation. And sometimes I wondered if they sensed a softness in me that adults overlooked. My husband, Marcus, worked in finance. A fast-talking, sharp-dressing man who loved cufflinks, sports cars, and the smell of expensive cologne. When we first met, I thought he was exciting, ambitious, confident. But now, looking back, maybe what I mistook for confidence was really just ego dressed in polish. Still, I loved him. I loved him in that gentle, steady way a woman loves when she believes relationships are built, not found. Dinner at our house was simple: baked chicken, roasted potatoes, and vegetables. Marcus rarely complimented the food, but he always ate every bite. Back then, that was enough for me. On weekends, he watched basketball while I folded laundry beside him on the couch, humming soft gospel under my breath the way my mama used to. He never joined in, never asked about the songs. But he didn't complain either, and so life moved quietly, peacefully. When I found out I was pregnant, I cried. Not because I was scared, but because it felt like the beginning of everything I ever prayed for. Marcus didn't react how I expected. There was no smile, no excitement, just silence. He sat there staring at the pregnancy test strip on the table like it was a bill he didn't want to pay. Then finally, he said, "Are you sure?" Those 3 words cut deeper than any knife ever could. Still, I brushed it off, told myself men process differently, told myself it would take time. Weeks passed, and slowly, something in him changed. He stopped coming home early, stopped touching my stomach, stopped asking how I felt. He started wearing cologne to late meetings. He started leaving his phone face down, always on silent. He started showering the moment he walked in before even saying hello. I noticed the changes, but I didn't want to see them. Because when you love someone, denial becomes its own language, and I was fluent. The first real clue came on a Thursday evening. I was folding baby clothes, tiny socks, and soft yellow onesies when Marcus's phone lit up on the table beside me. Just one message. "Did you tell her yet?" My hands froze mid-fold. Not because of the message, but because the name attached to it read, Brianna Adams, his assistant. A woman whose voice always sounded a little too bright when she said hello, and whose eyes stayed on Marcus a little too long whenever we attended work events. My heart wasn't beating, it was pounding. Loud enough I could hear it in my ears, but I didn't touch his phone. I placed it back exactly where it was screened down. I told myself maybe, just maybe, it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe all women lie to themselves like that. That night at dinner, I watched him eat while my food sat untouched. His jaw clenched when he chewed. His phone buzzed twice, then 3 times. He didn't look at it, but he didn't have to. His entire body was restless, uncomfortable, like the truth was pressing against his ribs and he couldn't breathe with it inside. Finally, he put his fork down slowly like he was rehearsing. Then he said, "Olivia, we need to talk." My throat tightened. I already knew, but hearing the words still shattered something inside me. His voice was cold, flat, emotionless. "I'm not ready for a family. I don't want this." He didn't look at me, not at first. His eyes stayed fixed on the table, like avoiding my face made his confession cleaner, less cruel. I whispered, "Marcus, I'm 7 months pregnant." He shrugged. As I said, "I'm not ready." My vision blurred with tears, but I didn't move, didn't scream, didn't break, not yet. Then he stood up, pushed his chair back gently, not angrily, not emotionally. Just casually, like he was leaving after a normal meal. "I'll send support, we'll discuss logistics, but I'm moving out tonight." Those words, "I'm moving out tonight," didn't feel human. They felt rehearsed, final, signed off in ink. He walked past me, heading toward the hallway. Something in me, instinct, fear, love, made me grab his wrist. "Marcus, please don't do this, please." He looked down at my hand as if my touch offended him. Then he said something I will never forget. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll survive." Survive? As if love was a battle and he was sparing me. As if abandonment was mercy. He pulled his wrist free, grabbed his suitcase, and walked out the door. I didn't chase him, didn't fall to my knees, didn't scream. I just sat there, hand on my stomach, while my child kicked softly beneath my palm, as if reminding me that life was still inside me. And that was the night my marriage ended. But it was also, unknowingly, the night Karma began her slow walk toward justice. For days after Marcus left, the house felt unfamiliar, too quiet, too still, like someone had removed the heartbeat from it. The bed felt bigger. The kitchen echoed. The couch cushions remained perfectly in place, not a wrinkle, not a dent, because no one sat beside me anymore. Some mornings, I woke up forgetting he was gone. I would roll over, ready to nudge him awake. And instead my hand would land on cold, empty sheets. Pregnancy has a way of intensifying every emotion. Loneliness feels heavier, fear feels louder, and silence feels like a punishment. Still, I tried to continue living. I went to my doctor's appointments alone. I prepared the nursery alone. I folded baby blankets and placed stuffed animals neatly onto shelves, pretending everything was normal, pretending this was still the life I planned for. But grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, like when you pause halfway through building a crib because your hands shake, or when you sit in a rocking chair meant for bedtime stories, only to find yourself rocking with tears streaming silently down your face. Yet life does not stop, not even for heartbreak. 7 weeks later, my son arrived. A beautiful baby boy with soft brown skin and a cry that filled every room like a declaration. I named him Malachi, because it meant God's messenger. And in some fragile part of me, I believed he was. When the nurse placed him in my arms, something shifted inside me. My chest no longer felt empty, it felt full. Full of love, full of purpose. Full of something I hadn't felt in months, hope. Marcus didn't come to the hospital. Not on the day Malachi was born. Not the day after. Not when papers were signed or photos taken or doctors walked in to congratulate me. He didn't come at all. Instead, 3 days later, while sitting in the rocking chair with Malachi asleep against my chest, my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Hope everything went smoothly. I'll send financial support once I meet with HR. No congratulations, no curiosity, no question about the baby. Just a sentence as cold as the night he walked out. I stared at that message for a long time. Then slowly, carefully, I placed my phone down and kissed my son's forehead. Because in that moment, I realized something. Marcus may have left, but I still had everything that mattered. Weeks turned into months. Motherhood was exhausting, sleepless nights, bottle warmers, diapers, doctor visits, but it was beautiful too. Malachi's smile could melt the hardest parts of me. His tiny hand gripping my finger made me feel chosen, needed, irreplaceable. Slowly, laughter returned to my life. Not loud laughter, but soft, breathy, grateful laughter. The kind that comes from surviving what should have broken you. Then one afternoon, just as spring began warming the air, fate knocked at my door. Literally, I opened it, rocking Malachi on my hip, expecting a delivery. Instead, I found Marcus standing there, wearing a suit, holding roses, smiling. Not the apology kind of smile. No, the smug, confident smile of a man who believes he can walk back into a life he shattered, without consequence. Before I could speak, he looked past me at Malachi, his eyes widening just slightly. "Oh," he said softly. "He looks like me." My jaw clenched. He straightened his suit jacket, cleared his throat, and continued. "Listen, Olivia, things didn't work out with Bry." And just like that, the truth slipped into the room without permission. Ah, there it was, the reason he left. The reason he disappeared. The reason he chose everything but responsibility. He didn't leave because he wasn't ready for a family. He left because he thought he had a better option. He left because he believed I was replaceable. I didn't speak. I just rocked Malachi gently, letting silence do the talking. Marcus shifted, growing uncomfortable. "So I want to fix things, try again, be a family." His voice wasn't tender, wasn't remorseful. It was entitled, like he expected me to say yes. Like I had been waiting for him, he reached for the roses as if presenting proof of sincerity. But I didn't step aside. Instead, I finally spoke. "Marcus, you didn't leave me because you weren't ready. You left because you thought someone else was better." His face tightened. "And now that she's gone," I continued, "you think you can come back here and pick up where you left off?" His eyes flickered with annoyance. "Olivia, don't make this dramatic." My laugh was soft, almost gentle. "Oh, trust me," I said, "this isn't drama, this is clarity." I shifted Malachi in my arms. "See, Marcus, the man I was when you left. Needed you, she believed you were her future." I lifted my chin. "But the woman standing here now, she knows better." Marcus swallowed. His confidence cracked just a little. Are you saying no? I met his eyes and answered, I'm saying my son deserves a present father, not a convenient one. Then I closed the door, not angrily, not bitterly, just finally. But karma was only warming up. And soon Marcus would learn exactly what it feels like to lose something he took for granted. Permanently, after I closed that door on Marcus, I expected anger, yelling, maybe even a dramatic scene. But instead, there was silence. A long, cold, uncomfortable silence. I stood there holding Malachi, listening as Marcus's footsteps slowly retreated down the porch steps, down the walkway until they faded completely. And when they did, I exhaled a breath I didn't even realize I had been holding. Malachi stirred softly in my arms, little fists curling near his cheeks. I kissed the top of his warm head and whispered the truth I had just discovered. We don't beg to be kept. Life felt lighter after that day. I won't pretend everything became perfect. Being a single mother was still exhausting, messy, and overwhelming. But emotionally, something inside me had shifted. Marcus wasn't a wound anymore, he was a closed chapter. And for the first time in a long time, I began thinking about something beyond survival. Stability. Not temporary stability, true stability. So I started working again. It wasn't glamorous. Part-time administrative work at a small dental office, answering phones, greeting patients, scheduling appointments. But it was honest, steady work, and every check meant diapers, formula, and a future. The office was quaint, soft music, lavender diffuser, kind coworkers. Patients often smiled at Malachi's photo taped on my computer monitor. Some days were long, especially when I barely slept the night before, but I pushed through, because every exhausted morning reminded me of the night Marcus abandoned us, and every peaceful evening reminded me that I survived anyway. 2 months passed. Then one morning at work, the door chimed and in walked someone I never expected to see again. Marcus, wearing a crisp navy suit and cologne I once loved. He looked good, too good, like a man fighting desperately to create an image he couldn't maintain. His eyes scanned the office before landing on me. He smiled, a slow, confident smile. Olivia. I didn't stand, I didn't smile back. I simply said, "You need an appointment?" He chuckled, pretending my coldness didn't cut. "No, I came to talk." My boss, Mrs. Henderson, a woman in her late 60s with silver hair and sharp intuition, peeked from her office door and observed. I didn't want a scene, so I nodded toward the hallway. We stepped aside far enough to talk, but not far enough for privacy. Marcus folded his hands. "I've been thinking about what you said." I waited, no encouragement, no softness, just silence. He continued, "I think we should work out visitation." There it was, not love, not regret, not responsibility, just access. And only when it suited him, my jaw tightened. "Marcus," I said slowly, "you haven't even asked how your son is." His eyes flickered. "Well, I assumed he's fine." Assumed? He said it like Malachi was a car that needed an oil change, not a living, breathing child he helped create. I took a quiet breath. "Before there's any discussion about visitation," I said, "there needs to be a legally established agreement." His expression darkened. "You want child support?" "No," I corrected. "I want consistency." His voice sharpened. "You don't have to punish me, Olivia." Punish him? That word echoed inside me. Punish, as if he was a victim, as if I was the aggressor. As if abandonment was something minor, like forgetting to return a library book. I looked him directly in the eyes. "Marcus, consequences aren't punishment, they're the cost of choices." His nostrils flared, and for the first time since he returned, his confidence faltered. He leaned closer. "So that's it? You're really going to drag lawyers into this?" I didn't blink. "You walked out without warning. You denied responsibility. You didn't show up for the birth. You didn't check in. You texted because that was convenient." His mouth tightened. "So yes," I continued softly, "I'm involving lawyers because my son deserves more protection than your moods." He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Mrs. Henderson stepped forward, her voice smooth, her presence solid. "Sir, unless you're here for dental care, I'll need you to leave." Marcus looked between us, anger simmering, but he didn't argue. He just straightened his jacket and muttered, "This isn't over." Then he left. And the door closed behind him with a soft but final click. That same evening, I made an appointment with a family attorney. Her name was Ava Sinclair, a sharp, calm woman with glasses, a neat bun, and a voice that could slice through arrogance like warm butter. After hearing my story, she folded her hands and said, "Olivia, you've been more patient than most. But now we make things official." There was no drama, no dragging, just paperwork, documentation. Truth. Marcus was served 3 weeks later. And the reaction, explosive. Text messages, voicemails, accusations, but I didn't answer. Silence became my shield because sometimes not reacting is the loudest response. Then a shift happened, unexpected. Swift. Marcus stopped threatening, stopped arguing, and one afternoon he sent a message I never expected. "I'd like to sign over full custody. I'm done." Just like that, no fight, no attempt, no remorse. He gave up on fatherhood, on responsibility, on Malachi, and strangely, I felt nothing, no sadness, no anger, just closure. I looked at my son, sleeping peacefully, and whispered, "Some losses are blessings wearing disguise." But destiny wasn't finished. Because months later, right when life finally felt steady, Marcus's world collapsed. And the same arrogance he mistook for strength would soon become the reason he lost far more than just us. For days, I lived in silence. No phone calls, no apology, not even a message asking if the baby and I were safe. But on the fifth morning, everything shifted. A sleek black car pulled up outside the small guest house where I was staying. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but then the door opened, and a man in a crisp gray suit stepped out, holding a folder and a stern expression. "Mrs. Sharma?" he asked. My heart raced. "Yes, that's me." He nodded politely and handed me the folder. "These are legal papers. Your husband filed for divorce and custody." My breath left my body. Custody. Of a baby he never once touched, a child he didn't even care about. "He claims you're unstable," the lawyer continued. "That you left voluntarily, that you're refusing access." I laughed not because it was funny, but because the lie was so outrageous it felt unreal. Tears blurred my vision, but I forced myself to breathe. He wasn't just abandoning us now, he was trying to erase us. Something inside me snapped. For months, I had been quiet, soft, forgiving, hoping someone would finally stand up for me. But standing there, clutching my unborn child with trembling hands, I finally understood. No one was coming to save me, I had to save myself. I wiped my tears, squared my shoulders, and looked the lawyer straight in the eyes. "Tell him," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "if he wants a fight, he's about to get one." Because now, I wasn't just a pregnant woman, I was a mother. And mothers don't lose, they rise. The next morning, I went to meet my own lawyer, a calm, sharp-eyed woman named Advocate Mira. She listened to everything silently, her fingers tapping the desk as if connecting invisible dots. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "Before we fight, we investigate." I didn't fully understand what she meant, but I trusted her. For the next week, she worked quietly. Calls, records, background checks, things I never imagined could be connected. Then one day, she called me urgently. "Come to my office, now." My hands shook as I walked in. She slid a sealed envelope across the table, her eyes intense. "What I'm about to tell you," she whispered, "is the real reason they want custody and why they kicked you out." I opened the envelope. Inside were financial documents, property transfers, and hospital files. My heart stopped. My husband's company was drowning in debt, massive debt, hidden behind forged documents and fake assets. And worse, his mother had transferred everything into my unborn baby's name, without my knowledge, without my consent. Mira continued, "Your baby isn't the burden they claimed, your baby is the key to saving their collapsing empire." Suddenly everything made sense, the eviction, the insults, the sudden custody case, the urgency. They didn't want me, they wanted control of the child. My blood boiled. My husband didn't abandon me because I was unworthy. He abandoned me because I was in the way. I felt something inside me transform, grief turning into fierce clarity. Mira leaned forward and said softly, "You are not powerless. With these documents, you hold everything." For the first time in months, I felt something I thought I'd lost power. And in that moment, I promised myself they took my home. They tried to take my dignity. Now, I was going to take back everything and more. The courtroom was silent when I walked in, every step felt heavy, but I held my head high. My husband sat on the opposite side with his mother beside him, dressed like a saint in white, pretending to be the victim. She wouldn't even look at me. My husband smirked as if he had already won. But sitting next to me was Advocate Mira, calm, collected, almost amused. The judge began the hearing. This case is regarding eviction, emotional abuse, and an attempt to claim custody before the birth of the child. My husband's lawyer spoke first, confident, rehearsed, dripping with fake concern. "Your Honor, my client only asked his wife to leave temporarily for her own safety. The stress at home was affecting her pregnancy." His mother nodded dramatically, even pretending to wipe a tear. I clenched my jaw. Then the lawyer continued, "And regarding the property, legally, everything belongs to his family. The child is the rightful beneficiary, and my client is only trying to protect his unborn child's rights." My husband leaned back, satisfied. It was their strongest narrative. We did this to protect the baby. Not to control, not to own, to protect. But then Mira stood, and her voice sliced through the room like a blade. "Your Honor, we have evidence that contradicts every word they just said." She walked to the judge's desk and placed a thick folder down. Inside were debt records, fake loan applications, forged signatures, timeline documents, medical reports, and the most brutal piece, the secret property transfer into the unborn child's name without my consent, without my knowledge. Illegal. The judge's expression changed instantly. My husband shifted in his seat. His mother's face drained of color. And then Mira delivered the strike that shattered everything. "Your Honor, this wasn't protection. This was financial manipulation, emotional abuse, and an attempt to use this unborn child as collateral for failed business debts." The courtroom buzzed. My husband snapped, "That's a lie." But Mira smiled, slow, cold, unshaken. "Then perhaps you'd like to explain why your mother signed documents using your wife's forged signature?" Gasps. His mother froze. The judge leaned forward. "Is that true?" Silence. They didn't have a defense, only guilt. The judge slammed the gavel. "Temporary custody decision. Mother only. Residence rights restored. Husband and mother-in-law are prohibited from contact until further evaluation." My husband's chair scraped loudly as he stood, angry, exposed, powerless. His mother didn't move. I walked past them, not as the broken woman they threw out, but as the woman who survived them. As I exited the courtroom, I gently touched my stomach and whispered, "You're safe now. Mommy won." The day after the court ruling, everything felt quieter. The house, the same one where I was insulted, pushed aside, and treated like an inconvenience, suddenly felt different. Not because the walls changed, but because I did. I wasn't the scared woman clinging to a marriage anymore. I was a mother protecting her child. 2 weeks passed. My pregnancy grew heavier, the baby moved more, and for the first time in months, I slept without fear. Then, one evening, there was a knock at the door. A slow, hesitant knock. Not the kind of knock that demands entry, but the kind that asks. I opened it. There he was, my husband, except he didn't look like the confident, untouchable man I once knew. His hair was uncombed, his shirt wrinkled, eyes swollen from sleeplessness. And beside him, no mother, just him, stripped of arrogance. He took a shaky breath. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I simply stepped aside. He didn't sit. He stood there, hands trembling, studying me like someone realizing they ruined something irreplaceable. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know when everything went wrong. I don't know whether it was pride, pressure, or my mom's influence." His voice cracked. "But I should have been here with you, protecting you, loving you." I kept my face still, no anger, no softness, just truth. He continued. "I went to the house and it felt empty. Not because things were missing, but because you weren't there." A long silence grew between us. Then he whispered, "I want my family back. I want to fix this. Please let me try." There was a time those words would have healed me instantly. But now, they just sounded late, very late. I placed my hand on my belly, our baby moved gently, almost as if listening. And then I said the words I never imagined I'd say. "You left when I needed you most. Not when things were easy, but when life was breaking me." He lowered his gaze. "You didn't protect me. You didn't protect our child. You protected your comfort, your image, and your mother's control." His shoulders shook, tears overflowed. "I know," he whispered, "and I regret it every second." I inhaled slowly. "Regret isn't love," I said softly. "It's just the echo of consequences." His eyes snapped up to mine, desperate, searching. "Do I still have a chance?" he asked, voice barely audible. I didn't answer immediately, because this wasn't just about forgiveness. This was about safety, dignity, and future peace. Finally, I spoke. "You will be in our child's life if you earn it. You will respect boundaries because they are necessary. And you will rebuild from the beginning, not as my husband." He blinked, confused, hurt. "But as a father learning what responsibility really means." His knees buckled slightly, not physically, but emotionally. Because for the first time, he realized he didn't just lose a wife. He lost the version of me who needed him. He nodded slowly, accepting reality. Then he whispered, "Thank you for giving me even that much." When he walked away, I didn't cry. I didn't break. I didn't collapse. I simply closed the door and leaned against it with the quiet strength of a woman who finally understood her worth. My story didn't end the way I once dreamed, but it ended the way I needed, not with revenge, not with hatred, but with clarity, boundaries, and dignity. And sometimes, that's the most powerful justice of all. Sometimes life doesn't fall apart to destroy us. Sometimes, it falls apart to rebuild us into someone stronger, wiser, and softer in all the right places. If you've ever loved someone who didn't protect you, if you've ever stayed longer than you should have because you hoped they'd finally see your worth, if you've ever believed someone's apology more than their behavior, then maybe, like me, you learned this the hard way. Love should never cost you your dignity. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. And closure doesn't always come with an answer. Sometimes it comes with acceptance. Today, I raise my child with peace instead of fear, with truth instead of silence, with strength I never knew I had. And as for him, the man I once waited for, he is still learning that regret cannot rewrite history and love cannot survive in the absence of respect. But this story isn't about punishment. It's about growth, about boundaries, about finally choosing yourself even if it hurts. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you have taken him back or walked away like I did? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone out there may need your wisdom. And if my story touched your heart, don't forget, subscribe for more real stories every week. Your voice, your experience, and your strength matter here. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the hardest goodbye is the one that finally sets you free.